we have to create the right vibe, you know, the energy, and everybody at the organization has to feel so privileged to be here. It's no other way.
Thanks for listening to the Purely Arsenal podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at Purely Arsenal FP for all the latest Arsenal podcasts.
Welcome to another edition of our Purely Arsenal sit-down podcast. We're here to review the 2-2 draw at the Etihad against Manchester City. So close to being a win, and we're going to talk about it because there is a lot to talk about when it comes to this game. And I'm joined by my regular Neil Shah. Neil, how are you this morning? I had a few hours to calm down after that bombshell of a game. How are you feeling?
I'm not calm yet, mate. I thought the few hours would do me good, but I'm not calm. I'm seething, mate.
Yeah, Well,
very I mean, with all being said, it's still a great point, but nah, I'm seething. Let's talk about it, shall we?
Yeah, let's get into it. Oftentimes when it comes to the ref stuff, I get that out of the way first, but I think there's so much happened before it. I think we're going to go chronological this time and go through it, and when it gets to it, we'll talk about it. Obviously, with a game like this, you never want to be talking about the ref, but they want to put themselves in the forefront, don't they? So they've got it. They've got us talking about it once again, and seems to be always the way at the moment with Arsenal. We seem to be the one that's setting the standard for, if you like. What standard that is, I don't know, but we're going to get to it. But Neil, but first of all, 2-2 draw. Obviously, they scored in the last minute. Lots happened before it. Injuries, red cards, heated moments, fights. Terrific goals, debuts, you name it. Everything happened in this game. What are your big takeaways when you look at it objectively, Neil? Before the game, I think with everything that went on, the week that we had, I'm talking the derby, playing later than City away in Italy, a very, very tough game in the Champions League Thursday night. We all know what Thursday, Sunday games do. We know no one knows that better than Arsenal over the last few years, what that can do to just an average game, let alone City away. Being down to 10 men, all that kind of stuff. When you look at that, Neil, it's really hard to objectively look at it and say it's not a great point. Even at the start of the game, I think we'd all say a point would have been a decent, at the very least, a decent result. And at half time, I think you might have even gone further, to be honest, despite the fact that we were winning. I think many Arsenal fans would have probably snapped your hands off for a 2-2. But of course, the manner and everything like that changes it a little bit. I think if John Stones had scored in the 50th minute, we'd be having a much different outlook. So it's a difficult one. But Neil, what are your big takeaways from it, without sort of going too much into detail on the ref stuff, because obviously we're going to get to that, and I don't want it to be the sort of main point of the podcast as such, but in the end it's a point, Neil. It's 7 points away from home with Spurs, Villa and City already out of the way. Lots of positives to take, but gutting as well.
Yeah, okay, I'll put my objective hat on, and I'll agree that it's an incredible point given the circumstances. We've had a tough first 5 games, I'd say, and then 6 including the Champions League. It's not been easy for us. 4 away games, really, isn't it? So 4 away games, and the home ones to Brighton and the Wolves, and 4 away games, and 3 of them in the Prem, 7 points out of 9. I think we all would have taken that. Whichever combination of wins and a draw it would have been, we would have taken 7 out of 9. I still think that arguably they're the 3 toughest away games in the season anyway, with the exception maybe of Liverpool away. I think, and maybe Newcastle's always difficult, but I think those 3 are tough, and we've 7 out of 9. You're gonna take it, Jack. You've got to be pleased. And then, as you said, because we had such a build-up, 3 games, we've lost our main man, we've lost our main creator, Odegaard, we'd lost Rice for Tottenham. It just goes on, and then we've still had some injuries coming into this game, and yet we still managed to, get a point and playing 56 minutes of that game with 10 men against arguably the best attacking or maybe best team in the club team in the world. Some would argue, if not Europe, definitely in Europe because they've proved it, but maybe even in the world. And you know what they're like juggernauts. And normally, if they're up against a team of 10, they'll take them to the cleaners. So we have to be proud. I think there is no doubt in my mind that the whole team, every player involved, the manager today, the coaching or the technical coach for the set pieces, David Raya again, absolutely incredible performance. Just to sit back, to have a .06 xG in the second half, to have literally no shots on target, no passes in their final third. You know, it's insane that we were just peppered for 56 minutes. And it was only just at the very end that, you know, they broke through. So I'm very proud of the team, very proud of what's led up to it. And you know what? I think now we're going to be in a very strong position. We're going to be hurting. We're going to be really hurting today, these players. And they're going to come back with a vengeance. And I think we've got a good run now, or on paper, a good run. And I think we're going to just capitalise. So, yeah, with taking it away, looking at it that way, you can't be prouder. Unbelievable performance.
No, incredible. And I like you, I was gutted at the end. And you know, you can see the goal in the last minute of any game where you're almost there and winning it. It's gutting, let alone this one, you know. But you know, I quickly kind of looked at it objectively. I think I sort of texted you, I texted my brother as well, and I think we were on the sort of same boat. We were like, you know what, that's a great point. It's a great point when you look at it, and I think, you know, if I know people can look at it, but I really think they struggled, which is a real sign. And I think the way they reacted at the end was also a real sign. You know, you score an equaliser whilst their fans were celebrating, and you know, we got done for celebrating, didn't we, last season? And they're celebrating against 10 men, which is hilarious. The irony of that is quite. No one said anything about that. That wasn't to be discussed at all. That wasn't to be discussed. It was all about us sort of dropping 2 points right at the end and all that kind of stuff. But the celebration. What was really interesting was their players, whilst the fans and even Pep were celebrating, their players were furious. Their players were out of control at the end of the game, and I found that really quite interesting. We, of course, conceding a goal, we're going to feel crushed and gutted, and that reaction can be interesting. But when you score a goal, to still be livid, I found it quite interesting that they were that livid at the end of the game, and I was like, this is quite interesting, because you're still clearly absolutely furious here. And what are you furious with? Are you furious that you didn't win it, or are you furious that you never looked like winning it? And I think it's the latter, which is quite interesting. I find that quite interesting. But Neil, a couple of things before we get into the start of the game. Lineup was interesting again. Like you said, we've lost our technical leader, best player in my opinion. We've lost him, and we've had to find a new way of sort of getting results, you know, without him. And I think we're going to have to find a new way again, because we can't play the way we have in the last two to three games. With the games that are coming up, we have to, you know, go back to the way we know how, really, and become a dominant side again with the ball, you know. But in this game, we had another sort of whirlwind where White wasn't fully fit to start. It seemed, at least that was what Arteta alluded to a little bit after the game, and Calafiori's got his first start. Interestingly, lots of fans felt that could be a tactical thing. I think we even have discussed on this podcast the belief that perhaps one-on-one against tricky wingers, which they did play. They played their two trickiest wingers. Whether Ben White is the ideal option for that. So it was quite interesting to see whether it was tactical or you know, injury-based. Of course, White played 45 minutes in the end, so his injury hopefully wasn't that bad. It didn't seem to be. He came on and played very well, I thought. But that was very, very interesting to see that. But obviously that change, I do expect that change probably wasn't intentional. I expect he wanted to keep the back four that he'd had all season, that had only conceded one goal against Brighton, which was also down to 10 men, which hadn't really looked like conceding many goals at all this season. I can't imagine this was the way he wanted to give Calafiori his debut, but maybe we don't really know for sure. But I imagine he would have preferred to stick as is. But we'll get to the performances of Calafiori and Timber. But I do have to say, in the first 15, Neil, if we can just discuss that, City started really fast. I mean, they started really fast. We looked in trouble a little bit in terms of us getting the ball. Mick Arteta said, we just couldn't control the tempo of the game. We couldn't get our foot on the ball, and they had some real chances. But also the just before we get to that 15 minutes, from moment one, the tone was set, wasn't it? Havertz runs into Rodri. Rodri drops like a sack of spuds just straight to the floor. Over here, they're saying they think Havertz could be sent off. I can't see anything. I don't see any close-up of that. It looks like to me Rodri wants to block his path and Havertz sort of nudges into him. In the end, that's probably the most sensible moment the ref has, because after that he goes completely doolally. But that set the tone to me, Neil, and I think that was a signal to the ref. I think that was a complete signal from City to the ref that, you better watch out for anything Arsenal do here, because if they lay anything on us, we're dropping down here and we're going to surround the ref. And that's exactly what they did from the start, and they continued to do that, and they got their just reward for that. I wonder what your thoughts were with that incident, Neil, because it's very rare that you see an incident like that before, well, just as the ball's kicked.
What did I think of that incident? I thought that they were trying to get our players sent off. I think what you just said a little while ago about I think they weren't upset about not winning it. They're upset that they found it difficult to win. I think that has really given the kick up the proverbials, because I think they now realise they've met their match. I'm going to go even wider field, Jack. I'm actually going to say, I think I was just very angry, but I had a conversation with James after the game, and I said, do you know what? I actually think we've been the better team for the last 3 seasons, including this one. I think we were unlucky not to win it in the last 2 seasons. Obviously, a lot of that was down to us and then certain key injuries. But I think they now realise that we are just as good as them. We just haven't got the experience of winning like they have. That's probably the only thing that's lacking. But I think we are toe to toe. We used to be miles and miles and miles away from City and Liverpool. I think we're probably better than Liverpool now, and I think we're up there with Man City. And I think Arteta has cracked it. I think he knows how to frustrate them. I mean, they haven't beaten us in 5 games. Is that right? Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, maybe including the Community Shield one. I think you might be.
So, and we were so close to getting a win over them today. So, that means we would have been ahead of them. 2 wins, 3 draws, or whatever it would be. I think it was their way of saying that this is probably the only way that we might be able to destabilise the team. Try and get one of their players sent off. Right, you asked me what I first thought. That's exactly what I first thought. He's trying to get him sent off. It's barely hit 3 seconds on the clock. I couldn't believe it. I just could not believe it. And then it happened again. All right, okay, then he did go off the pitch as a result of that. But it just seemed that, here we go, let's do some play acting. And you're right, let's send that signal to the referee. And, and it did culminate in what we saw later on anyway. I think it's disgusting. I think that they are a team. I tweeted, they're a team that actually played so well in the first 15 to 20 minutes. They didn't need to do any of that rubbish. They didn't need to. Their football was doing the talking anyway. I thought we were a little bit, well, we were all over the place. I thought, oh my God, this is not looking good the way they've started. I think it's the best I've seen the place all season for that first 15, 20 minute spell. And I thought it had to be against us, didn't it? And we just looked completely shell-shocked. So, I didn't see any need for them to do that, but that's what they do, and that's what really annoys me. And you know what else annoys me, Jack? People in the Sky commentary, and I've heard it. I think even the commentators. Oh yeah, they're playing. Oh no, it was one of the players, wasn't it? One of the City players saying they're using dark arts. That's the only way that they can try and throw us off balance. Start the game. Fall on the pitch. Claiming cramp and all this. What the hell are you doing? What have you been doing? I mean, you're the team that's got 115 charges against you, and you're calling us that we're using gamesmanship? Just shut up. It's just annoying, Jack. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was I just thought as soon as that happened, I thought this is a signal to the ref. They're trying to signal the ref to be aware of what Arsenal might do off the ball and this, that and the other. And they knew as well, we were already in that area where the refs hyper-focused on us because of the Rice incident and our reaction to that incident and all the incidents that have gone on since then that have not been treated with the same consistency. I think City felt they see opportunity there, but I also felt they wanted to level the playing field somewhat, which is a really positive signal to us, right? Rarely does City do things like that, where they do all the tactical stuff and everything that they claim they don't do, time wasting, etc. They do all of it when they need to do it, but in terms of basically trying to get other players sent off and trying to rile us and get under our skin, all this kind of stuff. Stuff away from the football directly itself. I felt it was a signal, and we'll talk about how we sort of fell into that trap maybe a little bit. But first incident, I felt nothing really in it, to be honest. I think Havertz saw him trying to block his path. I think he gave him a little nudge. But when you think about the incidents that happened beyond that, absolutely nothing. But like you said, they started like a house on fire. They had a great chance early on through Gundogan, which was like flicked up and he volleyed it wide. And then the Haaland goal. And it was a great goal from their perspective, to be honest. And Calafiori gets caught. He gets caught with Savio, who I've said all season is a really, really good player. And he just takes his first touch inside. Rice is kind of left a big gap where our two centre-backs are pretty exposed, but Calafiori doesn't get close enough to Savio, to be honest, allows him to turn inside too easily. And I thought Haaland was quite intelligent this game in terms of his football. I think in the last season, no one even knew Haaland played against us. We played 2 games against him, and he basically, other than a very lucky chance he got at the Etihad, which he completely scuffed, he basically looked like he was non-existent. But in this game, I thought he was quite intelligent. I thought what he did was, when the ball was on the ground, he tried to direct his attention towards Gabriel because he knew he was a little bit slower over the ground, and that's how he scored that goal, because he made his move off Gabriel. But in the air, in the second half, he directed his attention towards Saliba because he knows that Saliba's not quite as good aerially, and he got a little bit of joy there, but David Raya helped us out a lot. And I think saying all of that, I think after the goal, I think we handled him terrifically well, considering we had 10 men and the amount of pressure they were putting us under. If you think about the second half, other than one header, Haaland again, I'm not sure he had many touches at all. I'm really not sure. He was non-existent. But I could tell every time a cross came in, he quickly get himself right over to Saliba. And Saliba's, if he does have a weakness, it's that he's certainly not aerially as dominant as Gabriel. There isn't many centre-backs there are, to be honest, but he's certainly not that. But great goal, a great finish by him. Nothing Raya can do. Outside of his foot, it's a great finish. And the 2 goals we've conceded this season, Neil, have been where the 2 centre-backs have been split. And I just wonder there whether there's a slight weakness in us that may be through the centre of the pitch. But I do have to say, I feel the midfield, Rice and Partey specifically here, but I felt Rice was slightly, I felt we were just too open there from that moment. And then they also have the free kick where Gundogan hits the post there, Neil. And at that point, I have to say my biggest worry going into this game was going 1-0 down. That was my biggest worry, because I felt we'd set up with a plan to shut them out and to break on them and transition on them, and I felt that was my biggest concern. Did you have that concern too, like before the game?
I thought if we were going to finally win at the Etihad, I thought we would have to score first, and we've been very good with that record, haven't we? Scoring first and not losing a game, winning most of them. And also, I actually didn't think they were going to score. I thought we'd actually keep a clean sheet. So when that went in, I thought, oh God! And as we were saying, they were playing so well. I thought, is this going to be a massacre? And are we going to get the same old rap from outside? Oh, look at them! They're still nowhere near City, and all that rubbish. Even just after 5 games, oh God! It would have been disastrous if it lost, because we would have been 5 points behind them this early on, which isn't great. But it's quite heart wrenching, because I kept looking at the table when we were 2-1 up and we were top. and it was just horrible, isn't it? And then
you don't get anything for being top after 6 games. That's for sure. We were top for 300 days, weren't we? One stage.
Certain other clubs should take heed of that, shouldn't they?
Other than Tottenham, yeah, of course they create DVDs on it, don't they? Yeah,
That's it. God, I've lost my train of thought. But yeah, I was concerned. I thought, oh no, they've taken the lead. They're playing really well. How are we going to, manage this challenge? And actually, I thought after the first 20 minutes, I think it was all us. I thought we took a real control of the game. We started just. I don't know how we weren't really attacking the way we normally do, as you said, because we're not playing possession football at the moment. But we just seemed to be able to kind of dampen whatever their attacks and what they were doing as a whole, as a collective, again, mainly defensively. But it was almost as if we looked comfortable again. I can't explain it, Jack. We were 1-0 down against City at their ground, but I felt we looked comfortable once we started getting a little bit of the stranglehold of the game. And, then we had that, that mock set piece, didn't we? That came before. No, sorry, I'm wrong. That came after the first goal, didn't it? Or did it? I worked it back once. The first Gabriel chance. Was that after our first goal or before?
It was after our first goal, yeah.
Oh, it was. Okay, so I'm
the reaction. Sorry, carry on. The reaction though after 1-0 down was brilliant, really, wasn't it? Because we started really playing some good stuff.
It was. And can I just cite one player that I've actually had a lot of. I've been criticising a lot lately, and that's Martinelli.
Isn't he brilliant? The whole game.
He just. I think his pace. I think he now with the hindsight, he was the right choice. I think he his pace was just frightening again, and he did up for a chance which Trossard didn't he balloon over the bar.
What a move, Neil! What a move!
And that was like with Gabriel. I think it was Gabriel and Martinelli, two Gabriels. They linked up, and I think Trossard, if he'd finished that would have been a fantastic goal. But I thought even defensively, I mean, he has been good defensively anyway. It's just his attacking and his final ball that I've been saying has been lacking. But I thought yesterday, he was fantastic. I thought he was one of the players of the match, and then that's quite something. And that will hopefully give him the confidence. But he does seem to kind of pull it together in the big games, doesn't he?
He loves playing City. He loves playing City. Exactly. He loves playing Walker. I think it's really evident that Walker does not like playing him as well.
That's right.
That's why I think when we predicted last week's pod, I said he'll definitely start. Well, we said he definitely start because of his defensive abilities, but also because there's just something about him against what Walker does not like it, which is interesting because Walker up against pace often wins out. When he plays against Vinicius Junior, he's really, often done a number on him. Mbappe at PSG and etc. But there is something about Martinelli, his trickery, his relentlessness to keep going at him. He does not like it, Walker, one bit. He does not like it. He saw that he created the Calafiori goal. Then he laid it back, which was, it's a fantastic finish from Calafiori. It's absolutely, we've seen some of this in Italy of what he can do going forward. And I just wonder, Neil, I think Timber we'll get to Timber, but what Calafiori might offer to us from left back in terms of an attacking outlet could be quite transformational, because all the left backs we've had under Mikel Arteta as we progress to this title challenging level, you think of it, Zinchenko, Tomiyasu, now Timber, they've all had this sort of belief that they are not defence first, but Zinni's obviously got a different way, but all this sort of inverted type of left back. But Calafiori really looks like he's able to provide sort of, I guess, the typical sort of, gung-ho left-back ability, but really that ability to drive out and provide an outlet going forward as a part of the attacking side of the game in the final third. And he showed, the confidence, Neil, to take that first time. And over here they said, if he meant it. And I was like, he definitely meant it. There's no way he didn't mean it. And it's just a fantastic finish. And I think from that moment on, Neil, he just looked so good in the game. And it was so unfortunate that he couldn't go longer because he cramped up, just like a lot of our players do. The moaning of cramp is ridiculous when they all came off. They all went down and came off. It's not like they went down and carried on and finished the game. Every single one of our players that went down with cramp basically came off.
Yeah, right.
And so there's no agenda there. They're done. They're done. And this is what happens when you play with 10 men against a team like that. So and you put us playing on a Thursday beforehand, and etc. You know, I mean, it's a bit ridiculous, but I thought his performance overall after that, Neil, was fantastic. And Savio didn't really do a lot after that.
No, after that. And you said how you rate him, and you said what a good player
is. Very good, yeah.
So it's a testament to Calafiori that he is able to kind of almost nullify him, such a good player like himself, to do that. But the goal was ridiculous. And yes, he did mean it, because he actually, if you notice, he turns away even before the ball hits the back of the net. So he knows it's in. And if he didn't mean it, you'd be like looking at it thinking, oh, wow. A bit like that Saliba. Do you remember when Saliba scored that pretty decent goal and everyone was like shocked? I can't remember who put
at Bournemouth, yeah.
I don't know who put their hands on their,
very similar.
Yeah, who put their hands on their head?
Zinny.
Yeah, it was like, what the hell is that? You know, what's just happened? What have I just seen? Yeah, I think Saliba probably was a bit shocked, but I call him Rico, as I always struggle pronouncing his name. I think he knew it was in, he meant it. That was a fantastic, it was just such a beautiful touch. But credit to Martinelli. And of course, agenda. Here we go. First one. They all weren't going on about how great a goal it was. Weren't going on about how Martinelli did well there because he's not been on the ball late. And let's give the guy a little bit of props because he's done well there, Martinelli. No. Let's talk about how unfair it was on Kyle Walker because he was out of position, because the referee decided to, take the free kick or let it go quickly. I'm just thinking, Jesus Christ. Go on.
Sorry to interrupt on that. I think it's a really key point here because we're about to get to the Trossard incident.
Yeah.
And the point here is Partey gets fouled. A tactical foul from then, which arguably in transition, with the way he'd reffed it up to that point, should have been considered for a booking. But then after Partey gets fouled, Bernardo Silva runs with the ball for 15 yards. And that is why the free kick is taken out of position, because he runs back to his goal with the ball for 15 yards, should be booked. We're going to talk about it in a second, how our player got sent off for it. He doesn't get booked. There is absolutely, even the corruption that is Michael Oliver and the PGML, there is absolutely no way they can remove that goal based on the fact that, I think there's two arguments from City. One is Kyle Walker didn't have a chance to get back in place after the captains were called together. Well, Saka didn't have a chance to get back in place either because we were on attack, right? So you can't use that. Plus, there is clear video evidence of Kyle Walker being back in place, like literally. Secondly, the reason the free kick is taken out of place is because you've gone and taken the ball 15 yards away from where it should be taken. So what are we going to do? Delay our taking of the free kick by walking back 15 yards when the ball was already there? The point on that was we should actually be aggrieved on this moment because they should have booked Bernardo Silva at that point and they didn't. So the argument of, City having a problem with that, or I've had some people tweet me, oh, you're not moaning about your first goal. It would have been absolutely ludicrous to call that goal back. More ludicrous than the one they called back at Old Trafford because of an Odegaard foul a couple of years back when Martinelli scored.
That's right, yeah.
It would have been absolutely ludicrous. Of course, we're all looking there holding our breath going, what's he going to do here? Because we all know Michael Oliver. But he couldn't, because upon review, there is absolutely no argument. What are you saying? Okay, we've taken it slightly out of place. One, you've allowed it to go ahead at that point. You knew exactly where it should have been taken. So you'd have had to call it right there and then. You didn't. You allowed the play to go. Secondly, the reasoning for it is because you didn't clamp down on Bernardo Silva taking the ball 15 yards, which, by the way, is worse than the Doku one, because Doku, about 5 minutes after that,
right,
kicks the ball away, and the argument there for Doku is he's kicking the ball back to where the referee's telling him to do. But that's not what we've been told, Neil. We've been told that the player cannot get, the opposition player cannot get involved.
Exactly, you don't touch it.
If Declan Rice touches it with his toenail 2 yards, you can't then say, "Oh no, Doku's doing the ref's job
that's
here."
That's okay because the ref told him to do it.
Yeah, no, allow the ref to do that.
Exactly.
Allow the ref to implement that. Doku's not there, so that's another booking.
Yeah.
So that's ridiculous, but it takes away from, like you said, a fantastic moment. I love this celebration.
Yeah, but Jack, can I stop you there? What you're saying, all this about, the ball was moved by them, and that's why the free kick wasn't taken in place, and Saka was also not in position, and Kyle Walker actually probably did get back in position, but Sky weren't saying any of that. All they focused on was, we really sympathise with Kyle Walker because he was out of position. He wasn't allowed to get back in. That was it. That was the narrative. And you're thinking, and Theo Walcott was literally bullied because you had Keane, you had Mackay, and you had all of them, and they were all saying the same thing. And I think he was almost okay, then I'll kind of say the same thing. But it was a joke to listen to. It just infuriates me. If you look at it logically, just very much like you've just done there, and you look at it and you look at the bigger picture and you analyse it, you think, well, these are the reasons why, and why shouldn't we be allowed to take it quickly? That's part of the game, isn't it? Or am I wrong? Have I misinterpreted the rules again, like I am all the time? Because I don't know anything anymore. But sorry, we're in our full right to take that free kick early, and I'm sorry, Kyle Walker, I thought was in position. I would have got back in position. I don't know what the problem is.
No, there's no problem there. The problem comes later because then the Trossard incident happens. Now, this is my opinion on this, and I said this for the Rice one as well. Firstly, when a red card happens, I do think you've got to look at it from yourself and decide what could you do better in an instant. Now, what we're going to hear in the next couple of days, because there's been a lot of back and forth about it was the kick away or it was the challenge, and basically Peter and Mel were tying themselves up in knots. What they're going to say in the next couple of days is it's a combination of both. That's what's going to happen. They're going to come out, Howard Webb on his puff piece, and they're going to say it was a combination of both. They're going to say that. And I think from an internal perspective, I think we have to say, you can tell me if you disagree, and it's fine if you do, but I think Trossard's silly. I think he's silly. He's on a booking. I don't know why the game's still going on. I think that's a fair point. The game should be have called. It's 6 minutes. I don't know where they're getting the 6 minutes from anyway, and it's basically 2 minutes over the 6 minutes. That is a fair. Even I'm going, why is this game still going on? Because by the way, 30 seconds earlier, Partey gets a silly booking, and I'm like, it's a silly booking, Partey, but why is this game still going on? It's half time. But when you are on a booking, Neil, he barges, he knocks Silva into the back, and it's silly. He kicks the ball away at basically the point, maybe a couple of milliseconds, half a second after Oliver blows the whistle. But collectively, I think it's fair to look at those two and think you shouldn't be doing those when you're on a booking, when you know what we're dealing with Michael Oliver and the PGMO anyway. This is a referee that has done unprecedented things to Arsenal Football Club in the last 12 months, right? 18 months. Sent Martinelli off for 2 instances within the same play. Never seen it again. You won't see it again. It won't happen again. Claimed last year during the same game that when Kovacic was on a yellow card and he makes another foul,
it would have ruined the game.
God, that he didn't want to affect the game, the whole of the game. Yeah. And it's a leg-breaking tackle, to be honest. I mean, Odegaard's ankle goes over, could have been out for as long as he's out now.
Sorry, both of them I thought could have been
and
red
Rice's
cards.
one was a leg-breaking.
And he didn't even get one yellow.
No, exactly. Yep. And so we know what we're dealing with. My point is, Arteta knew what this referee was. We as a club and players knew what this referee was. So at the point, and we knew from 2 weeks ago what they were trying to do to us. We all know that they've not done it against anyone else since the Rice incident. We've seen a dozen of those incidents already. And we all know. So from an internal perspective, looking at ourselves, I think we need to do better, because we're not going to change PGML or Michael Oliver in our lifetime. Neil, we've been talking about it since Mike Riley and beyond before that, right? You go back to your years of watching football and what was it, the 91 season where we got dot points for Old Trafford. I mean, it's not going to change. The guy that did it in 2004 became the head of PGML. MRL. I mean, that is the worst refereeing performance. So us going, well, they need to do better. The refs need to be more consistent. It's not going to happen. We already know. So from my perspective, I look at it and say, Trossard, those two things there, you're silly, mate. In fact, I think you're sillier than Rice was 2 weeks ago, to be honest. Is that fair? Do you think that's fair?
No. I'm not going to dispute that at all. Trossard was stupid. He was stupid to do that because it's I put a tweet on and people, one guy was responding and getting upset because, but you're not putting any blame on Trossard. I said, no, I'm not saying that I'm not putting any blame on him. I agree what he did was silly, but I'm looking at the whole context of everything and how much has conspired against us because I feel there's just too much injustice, there's too much bias, and the corruption is now tangible. I used to think it's an intangible, now it's there. In fact, it's almost as if they know they're doing it and they don't care. It's become that bad. Jack, it happens to us not every one or two, every other game or every 3 games. It's happening to us every single game now, I feel. Every single game. They're trying to do something to just throw us off balance because they know that we've got something good going on with us. I mean, and I think they probably do know that we've got a very good chance of winning the league this season. And they just and people might think I'm overreacting, that I'm being too emotional, but you got clear evidence constantly. Yes, they keep going on about the letter of the law, but then the letter of the law, so many ways, goes against us as well when it should go for us. So it's like we can't win whatever we do. Whatever we do, we can't win. We talk about the incident with him, with the City player that should have been sent off twice in the space of 10 seconds for 2 separate incidences. One of them quite clearly could have been a leg breaker, but nothing. Yet, because Howard Webb came and said because he didn't want to ruin the game. But of course, when it comes to our player, let's just send him off because I don't care about ruining the game because I just want City to win because I'm on their paycheck.
And it's falling back on policy. It's falling back on letter of the law. We have no choice policy. And when the PGML...
Convenience. Always convenience.
Of course. And of course, I think context has to be everything. And the problem... so that's us internally, right? We have to do better.
No, I agree. Trossard was stupid.
Yeah. Yes. But beyond that, like you said... when you look at all the incidences in the game, if you're going, like Mikel Arteta was perfect at the end of the game. He said, look, I don't want to talk about it. He said, but I expect to see 100 red cards this season for the same thing. Yeah, because, and he's exactly right, because what he's saying there is basically, if you're going to send us off for that, I'm fine with it, but then you have to do it consistently across the board. And Neil, I'm not talking about other games. I'm talking about the same game. Within this same game, Haaland throws himself through the back of Saliba in the first half. It's worse than the Trossard one, so it's a booking, right? Yeah. If Trossard was booked for that, I think they're going to come out and say it was a combination because according to the PGMOL statement, it was because of the kick away. But according to the VAR recording that we haven't heard, but some people are privy to, they didn't even mention the ball being kicked away. They mentioned him going through the back of Silva. So they're going to say it was a collective decision. But basically, Haaland had 3 of these instances in the game. Yeah. He went through Partey, which was literally, I'm just going to run through your part. Like, it was ridiculous. It was nothing like the Havertz one, in my opinion. He flew through Saliba after the ball, and he throws the ball at a defender's head after the equaliser.
Oh, Gabriel.
Right, exactly. But by the way, he does not get booked for any of those instances. No. And beyond that, he's in the ref's ear. He's shouting at players. He's, all the intimidation factor from Haaland. He's the leader of the crew there. So the frustration now is, okay, you're going to send us off for that. Fair enough. But now you've got to do it everywhere because now I want to see the booking for Silva. I want to see the booking for Doku. I want to see the double booking for Haaland, or at the very least something. And it doesn't happen. And that the frustration I think a lot of people have, and even Liverpool fans, when they sort of take their sort of anti-Arsenal hat off, they'll look at it and say, this is exactly what we felt. And these type of decisions very rarely go against Manchester City. Yeah. And I think that's a fair thing. And what you remember is this is a referee, just like a lot of them, they're all from Manchester. and that has an issue in itself. I mean, that is not diversity. That is not representative of the league, and that is not a fair representation of what we should be having. And that's been that for years. So when they release a statement 10 minutes after the incident, that it's a protect yourself policy. That's what they're doing. They're immediately going into, we need to protect ourselves here because we've screwed up. Let's release a statement on it, and it's made things worse because they've released a statement that's completely contradicted what the VAR audio is, and it just shows how pathetic the handling of these instances are. But Neil, at that point, now obviously we're livid, right?
Can I just say, you're missing one bit as well. What about Pep? Pep was okay to go and smash his foot into his chair, wasn't he? That was fine. But Wenger threw a bottle and he got sent to the stands.
Yeah.
So again, there you go. And people saying, well, you can't look at the past. Well, why can't I look at the past? Because, I'm sorry, rule is a rule, right? Or is a rule just made for certain clubs' convenience?
Yeah. And I think when people say that, if they go, oh, you can look at every incident since time. And I go, okay, we're looking at the same game with the same ref, with the same two teams. I mean, that's where it gets really frustrating. You're looking at, this referee should not have been refereeing our game anyway.
He should be refereeing any of our games going forward.
It's incredible to me that this referee gets this game based on what he's done in previous games for us, or against us, sorry. That is incredible to me. I mean, when we saw it released earlier in the week, we all just looked at it and went, had a chuckle. We were like, I expect nothing else.
Why aren't refs accountable?
That's where it gets.
Yeah. Why
well, there you go. There you go. They're not, Neil, and then they try to bait. But
are they
Arteta.
Professionals? Can you explain to me? Are they paid?
Well, where are they paid from as well? Is it?
Yeah. But are they paid? Just answer the question. Are they?
Yeah.
And are they professional? So I'm sorry. How about professional conduct for them? Why aren't they banned for 3 games if they get something drastically wrong or they make an error of judgment? What is this that? And then you've got, as you said, you've got history with this particular. God, I so want to swear with this guy. You got history with this Michael Oliver. We have, and yet we still get him in all these key crunch games, and it's the same every single time. But yet Liverpool are allowed to say, we don't want this particular ref refereeing our games anymore. I just think Arsenal have to make a stand. You were saying that we need to do better. Yes, we do. The conduct on the pitch, we need to do better because we've got to be aware that we're not going to get nothing from the officiating. The officiating has been against us from day one, and it will continue to be so. As you said, we are always playing against 12 men. Every single game, we're always up against 12 men. But at the same time, while we should be doing better because we know we're not going to get any help from the officials, we've seen it with even our England players. Saka especially, never gets any protection. But all the other darlings of England did because they didn't play for Arsenal. But Saka doesn't get any protection from us. So we know what it's like, Jack. But at the same time, why doesn't our club, maybe at the top, just very much like Liverpool did, make a complaint and say we don't want this referee refereeing our games anymore? Why can't we do that? That's what annoys me even more.
Yeah,
it's not right, Jack.
Yeah, I think it's fine when it comes from the top of the club and we look at it and I think that's fair at this point. But we said we're going in chronological order and we missed 2 massive things out. Obviously, no. We got to the goal. The one thing we missed out about the Calafiori goal just before it happened was maybe the alongside Trossard, maybe one of the key turning points of the game. Neil, I think if you're a City fan, you probably look at the Rodri injury and go, that was where things turned. We were dominant. We were dominant for 17 minutes. And the Rodri injury happened. We had to bring him off. And, Neil, we don't know yet, but that could be quite a significant moment in the whole season. We don't know. We don't know. I don't wish injury on anyone, and I do not like Rodri one bit.
You probably know, but there's a stat where they've lost games, all of them, recently, he hasn't played. Yeah.
And we talk about our single points of failure, right? Odegaard being one of them, by the way. I think Odegaard is far, far more important to us than Kevin De Bruyne is to them, for example. I mean, they showed that last season. They played without him for 6 months and Foden ended up winning Player of the Year. I mean, because of their squad and what they have. But Rodri is their single point. He is their most important player. They don't really have anyone that can do directly what he can do. He plays 4,000 minutes for them every season. He doesn't basically miss a game. He's had the whole of the start of this season off, quite interestingly. Look, Rodri is a player that in footballing wise, I think is fantastic. But let's not forget some of the history that goes on with this player. On international duty last season, he basically tried to ruin Martin Odegaard, and it never got discussed other than with Arsenal fans. He went through him. It was completely unnecessary in an international friendly or a Nations League game, and Martin Odegaard got really, really lucky. It was a leg-breaking tackle. It was a shocking tackle. But I do not wish injury upon anyone. But this is quite significant because it's a non-contact injury, and him walking off does not mean anything. Him even being on the bench at the end of the game does not necessarily mean anything. The fact that I don't know, but the fact that he wasn't in a leg brace may mean something. But the way he landed, Neil, and the way he sort of yelped and screamed and, went into hugging his knee, and his mechanism, his telltale sort of ACL, MCL, meniscus kind of mechanism. It's non-contact. It's pivot and rotation on the right knee. And that is how people go down. They go down without putting any weight on the leg or, as they're running, and they take it off. Him walking off does not necessarily mean anything. So that story is to be told. Again, I don't wish injury upon anyone, but that is, I think is a fair to say from their perspective, could have been quite a significant moment, especially as the game did massively change at that point, and I think, we've got to have huge credit for coming into the game at that point, but they also may look at that as a turning point for them. But they have played fantastically well this season without him playing a minute. I would say that as well. So, for them to say that was the turning point, they've been fantastic without him. He's barely laced up his boots all season. So, but the second goal, Neil, it was coming. I mean, Gabriel had arguably a better chance 5 minutes before it, where he heads the ball over the bar, which is very un-Gabriel-like. But the way we're manoeuvring these corners, when you're coming up against a team like City, who are defensively fantastic from set pieces, but the way we made them look quite basic from set pieces and quite ordinary was just incredible. And if you're looking at this from a defensive perspective, Neil, from City, Raya is getting absolute pelters if he falls like Ederson does, and so is Kyle Walker if that's Ben White. So from their perspective, it's interesting because, we will always look at things internally and we'd be going on and on about, but the way we ushered Ederson away from it being able to even move was fantastic, I thought. To get to the point where Saka just lays it on a plate for Gabriel, just unbelievable two corners, I thought, where Gabriel just, is 5 yards out, less than, and he's just walloping the ball into the back of the net from, a free aerial. Neil, I mean, we are fantastic from set pieces, but I think it's really important to maybe just look at it and simplify it and say Saka is an unbelievable dead ball taker and Gabriel is just incredible in the air.
Okay, we've had a couple of pauses from you, but it could have been me. I don't know, but
Sorry.
Actually, what you just said right at the end, but I can guess. So Gabriel now 16 since his debut, 16 goals. I think 14. Another 16 from corners. I could be wrong, or set pieces. It's one of the two. Just insane stats. He has become our target man when it comes to set pieces. What I loved about it is, though both the chances were identical, they did a split view match of the day, and I think even on Sky, and they showed both. And the passage of play is literally identical. It's almost, one could be the action replay of the other. It's ridiculous. But the only thing is the first one, as you said, which is probably the better chance, it didn't go in. What I loved, you had Martinelli, you had Rico, you had Saliba blocking the keeper, and within the law. So let's talk about the letter of the law again, shall we? So they were doing it lawfully. So there's no foul there. So he just wasn't given any room to move. What annoyed me about the second one from their point of view was Walker was constantly prodding Gabriel. I don't know if you saw it. There was a bit of tippy-tappy between them, but more so from Walker. I'm sure you and James said to me, or said on one of the pods, I can't remember, that they're stopping that because of what Ben White was doing to the goalkeepers last season. So how is it allowed to continue when it comes to players doing it to us? I just saw that. I thought, hang on a minute, the referee should be stopping that. If you watch it, you see a moment of times he keeps prodding him. But anyway, it doesn't matter because Gabriel rose above it and he moved away from his man. He got away from him beautifully. And what a great delivery from Saka. We seem to forget his pinpoint deliveries. You know, Gabriel puts the ball in the net, he gets all the accolades, but Saka numbers.
Sorry, little pause on your end there, Neil. Carry on. We've got a little pause. Carry on.
Oh, sorry. What bit did you miss? Sorry.
Saka numbers, yeah. No, you're right on the Saka numbers because he's got
5
the most assists in the league, I think. Already.
So, yeah, that's what I was saying. So there's the numbers that Saka's got. He's now got 5 assists out of 5 games, and he's equalled Henry's record. I think that's they've got their joint now. I don't think anyone else has done that in the Premiership. I don't think that's an Arsenal record. I think that's a Prem record. So, you know, again, sorry, did I pause again?
No, carry on.
Oh, okay, yeah. So again, from him. But yeah, overall, great set piece coverage we now have because of this coach and this technical guy that's making it happen for us. It's evident that it's working, but it also works for us in defence as well. We've got big players to head the ball away. We was terrific defending, as we'll talk about in the second half. But, you know, for the goal, amazing. And 2-1 up, Jack, against City after being 1-0 down. And I think that's what makes it all the more harder to accept.
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously, you know, 2-1 up, like you said, I think we had the best chances in the first half. Our expected goals were higher than Manchester City. So all possession, it frustrates me a little bit because, you know, Arsenal notoriously in my lifetime have been a possession-based team, and we still are. We were the second highest possession-based team last season under Arteta. The previous season we were right up there too. What Arteta shows, which I really, really like, is he's able to adapt to game state. So when we don't have the ability to do that against a team that's superior in possession, he has no ego about it. He just disregards it. If he doesn't care about those numbers. He's all about, you know, using the possession wisely, etc. We saw this at Tottenham last week. I mean, they're the highest possession team in the league this season, and their possession was 95% redundant for the whole game. And you know, we were the better side, and we created the better chances. In the first half, that's exactly what happened. City had 65% of the ball, maybe a little bit more. But we had the best chances. We had the best chances in the game. Other than the first 15 minutes where Gundogan had that half chance and Haaland's chance was a big chance, we had the 3 best chances in the second half. 2 Gabriel headers and a Trossard shot that was a very, very good chance, in my opinion, though understandable, very difficult to keep down because it was fizzed into him and there was, you know, a body coming in close to him. We had the best chances. We were playing the best football after the first 15 minutes, in my opinion. City had a lot of the ball, but we were playing the most productive football. I thought we had, to get one of those corners, we had an unbelievable move down the right that Saka got a corner from back to front. It was just beautiful football. And the same with the Trossard chance and the Calafiori goal. It was just beautiful football. So I thought we were playing the perfect game plan. And then obviously with the red card, everything gets thrown out the window. Really interested at half-time, Neil. Obviously we knew we were going to make a sub, but I don't think anyone thought Saka was coming off. I think we all called Martinelli coming off. So I wondered if you thought that was tactical, or do you think that's because he's carrying something? He came off in midweek, I believe, at Atlanta a little bit early with a knock. He couldn't continue. I wonder what you thought there. What do you think the reasoning behind that substitution was? I think it worked. I thought Martinelli was terrific, but I just wonder what your thought was on it.
At the time, I'll say I didn't think anything of it because I was just incensed. The sending off. I was just completely blinkered with everything else. I didn't care about anything anymore. I just thought, Jesus Christ, we're going to have a hell of a half now, just trying to survive. I didn't think about anything tactical, what changes he might make, nothing. But with hindsight now, I think he probably was well aware. Let's be honest, Saka, as good as he is, Jack, and we all know what he is, I think if you look at Saka and Martinelli, and this is the irony, where I've been criticising Martinelli so much of late, I think he's a better defender. And I think if Arteta was going to think that, right, we've got no trust, but we're going to literally be penned into our penalty box and just outside for the next 45 to 50 minutes, I'd rather keep Martinelli on and sacrifice Saka. And I think that's probably what it is. injuries. Yes, I'm not going to fall into his Saka's trap anymore. I always say, right, he's injured. He's got to be rested in the next game. And you're right. He came off at Atlanta. I thought, that's it. We've lost Saka. If he starts again to see, I mean, Jesus, the guy's just made of titanium. So it's not. I don't think it's anything to do with injuries. I think if we still had 11 players on the pitch, there is no way he was bringing Saka off at half time. Jack, I think it was purely because I think he probably believes Martinelli can do a better job defensively, and we needed to defend, and it transpired to be the case anyway. So I think that was the reason for that.
I think also a couple of things that we probably should consider is that it was Ben White coming on, and he's a right-sided player. So obviously moving Timber up made a bit more sense than if you brought Ben White on, you'd have to reconfigure things on the left. The other thing is, I think Martinelli's a better transitional player, and if we were going to get anything going forward, not that we looked like we were going to, but if we were, he was going to be a bigger, faster outlet for us and worry them a little bit more.
Yeah,
and I think that might have been a factor too. And obviously Timber is, multi-positional, so his ability to sort of shift into a wing-back position or things like that was probably a little bit easier to look at. In the second half, Neil, look, it was backs to the wall. It was a 5-4 formation, or whichever way 6-3, which way you want to look at it, and it was heroic from my perspective. I thought David Raya was fantastic. What I found really interesting about it was I knew exactly how we were going to play. I knew we weren't going to have a major outlet, and we've been criticised for it. And I think it's ridiculous again, because we're not playing with 11 men, we're playing with 10 men. And what I don't like about it, Neil, is people disregard what happened with 11. So there's no awareness that we were winning with 11 men.
We were winning 100%.
We were winning with 10 men for until the last second. Yeah. But we were winning with 11 men. We had the better chances with 11 men. In my opinion, we were the better team with 11 men.
I think we would have won with it. I find that quite
frustrating. And people look at it and they go, oh, look at this. This is your Arsenal parking the bus, da-da-da. And I think a lot of it's sort of tongue-in-cheek, and I'm sure it is. And, me, I'll rise to the bait. But I think the disregard for it is quite frustrating. And whilst I less understood it against Brighton at home, because I felt, we were 1-0 up at the time when we went down to 10 men, but also I felt that's a game we should, even with 10 men, be able to dominate. And we did find a way to do that, but it took us too long and we conceded before we did that. In this one, I absolutely knew that we had no choice but to play like this. And, the argument of, you should have come out more, you should have had an outlet more. You look at anyone that's played with 10 men, including us at City, and they've been 5-0 results. Jurgen Klopp, 10 men, 5-0. 5-0. They had Sadio Mane sent off, 5-0. Absolutely smashed. And we were within seconds of getting what I felt was actually a deserved victory in this point, and forget the possession stats. And the reason I say that is even in the last 45, how many big chances did they really create? All of their chances, bar the goal, which was a big chance, of course, were all long-range efforts that David Raya or the defence did fantastically, the block. And to be honest, their big chance from John Stones came from a long-range effort, which we didn't get out too quick enough, so we'll get to that. But I just thought we were heroic. David Raya was fantastic. Timber, I've not seen anyone get past him, like anyone. No. Doku, what did Doku do? Nothing. Did he do anything? He came off at 70th minute and they brought Foden and Grealish on. Grealish did absolutely nothing up against him either. And the only time Grealish got any joy was when Timber had to come off. And we ended the game, Neil, with Kiwior at left back, Lewis Skelly at left wing back. I mean, it was a patched up team to the nth degree. And I could tell Arteta was very frustrated in our reaction to the corner. We didn't get out quick enough. Thought Thomas Partey was fantastic as well, by the way. I thought he was brilliant. Sitting right in front and knowing when to push out to press the ball and come back, because they were basically penned on the edge of our box. And our sort of stoutness to just stand there and be like, you're not going to break us down, being that deep. I don't think I've seen it before in a 45-minute period like that. I just thought it was incredible. Saliba and Gabriel, unbelievable. David Raya, when it got to him, incredible. Just fantastic. And Neil, many people say we've dropped 4 points from silly decisions and falling down to 10 men, and I don't think you can argue with that. But at the same time, I think we've learned a lot about the team and about how the team can sort of structure against adversity, and you just don't know how that holds us in the rest of the season, because things are going to happen and to every team, and I think we've shown a real resilience there that I'm sure Arteta believed we had, but maybe the fans didn't quite know we had,
No, I think if you want to talk about walls, we actually put up a physical wall. I'm not seeing the like of it either. We have seen it with Mourinho's sides when they park the bus, but I've never seen it with us, because we have always been a possession side, playing team, and we are normally not like this. Even when I remember when Wenger was losing, getting battered by these so-called big four, big five clubs, he'd still want to try and score a goal, if you remember. But Arteta has decided to play it differently, to tactically change things, to have a plan B, to adapt to a situation where, right, it might not be pretty, but it will be effective. And it almost proved to be effective again for the third away game running. Just a shame that it just didn't pan out that way, because the ref decided to add on extra minutes, of course, because he wanted them to score. I just felt that Raya, let's start with him for a second, he was beyond heroic. I said it in the last pod that he seems to be getting better each game. This is a guy that I'm beginning to admire more and more. Every single he's like, you can physically see he's growing further, deeper and deeper into his role. It's unbelievable. And what made it even more special today, I think he was blindsided. A lot of those saves that he did have to pull off, and you're right, they didn't create much because we were so compact. We were just allowing, and we were allowing those two players, I think it was Diaz and I can't remember who the other one was, those shots, because we knew they weren't any threat. They weren't any threat at all. It's only when, as you said, Stones and Grealish, I think, made it a little bit wider. They gave them a bit of width. That's when we started struggling just a bit at the end. But then you're right, we had a really patched up team by then. And the players were probably so tired and fatigued from playing on Thursday, having 10 men and literally having to defend for the whole 56 to 57 minutes of the game. So you can't blame our players. But before all of that, we were so compact and we were allowing those shots to happen because we knew they weren't a threat. And you're right. I think because we were so far back, so you had a 6 and a 3 or a 5 and a 4, whichever way it was, I think David Raya was blindsided to a lot of those. He was literally seeing them at the last minute and he was still pulling off the saves. It was an incredible performance from him. There could have been quite a few man of the matches in terms of the defensive duties that we had today, but I thought, again, he was up there for man of the match, Jack, for us. He was superb, absolutely brilliant. It just goes without saying, Gabriel and Saliba. Gabriel, as you said, he's got the strength in the air, and Saliba not so much, but Saliba's got it on the ground a bit better than Gabriel has. So they worked so well together in tandem. I think Timber, now you said to me a little while ago that you think, how does he say it? Calafiori. He's probably the better, could end up being a really, really outstanding player for that position. But to be fair to Timber, Jack, he's come off an ACL. I don't think we've seen the best of him yet. I think they're going to be literally on the level, both of them. We always talk about dropping levels with us when we have to take a player or rotate, for example, or if a player gets injured or suspended, there's a drop in level. If they're both going to play in the left-back position, I know it was different today, but I think if they are, there's going to be no drop in levels between these two. It's incredible to see that we've got that there. So he was tremendous. I thought Ben White, actually, I don't think he's had the best start, but he was great. And I think you're right about Partey again. I think all the players haven't really been quite with it this season so far. But for this particular role, everyone excelled, I think. I don't think there was anyone that was really lacking in the defensive duties. Kai Havertz was doing what he does. Rice was doing what he does. Rice hasn't been the best progressing this season, but I think he's going to. I don't know what it is with him. I think maybe he's still got a hangover from maybe the Euros. I don't know, but I'm sure it will all come together very, very soon. But Jack, it was just an unbelievable performance. I think we've all got to stand up as fans and applaud what we saw, despite that late goal going in, because that was tremendous.
Yeah, they added 7 minutes, 17 minutes overall in the game. City fans will argue, we were time wasting, we were delaying, etc. I know Pep said that. His players have come out and said that. It's no different to what anyone else would do with 10 men. So that's all I would say. It was, and the time was added and some. That is also what I would say. I find it a little bit difficult to understand how the first half went on for so long beyond the time allotted. I know we scored at the end of the 45 minutes, and that had a little VAR check on it for Gabriel's goal. So maybe he's adding that, but I do find it interesting when you've added such significant time. I think the ball was in play in the first half more than it had been in play for any game this season. Something like that, I think it came out. So find it very interesting that you've added 7 minutes to that first half in the first place, beyond adding more than the 6 minutes I think it was allotted. We were in the 7.5 minute when the Trossard incident happened. Obviously gutting to see the players sort of collapse to the floor at the end, at 2-2, and but they're exhausted, like you said, they're exhausted. They've had a really tough week, especially the likes of Havertz and stuff like that. Have basically been playing two positions all week. And obviously we've got to find a new way now, and I think it starts with getting him back to the centre forward position, because he is without doubt our best centre forward by far, and I think he's one of the best in the league, to be honest. But unbelievable. I think Timber, for what he's doing 6 games post ACL, is just unreal. And even in the second half, you saw him get forward a couple of times, and I think he nutmegged Vardio, and I think people are underestimating what he can do going forward, because he's had to do a very defensive role so far. Because of the games he's come up against, the wingers he's come up against, he's had less ability and maybe even fitness to be able to do what he needs to do in an attacking sense. I think that's all to come, and I think 100%. In White, Timber and Calafiori, you've got a really lovely rotation of fullbacks there, which is really, really going to be interesting before you even get to the likes of Tommy and Zinchenko,
Yeah. Got to mention Jesus, actually. I thought he did quite well when he came on as a defensive player.
Yeah.
Because there was a couple of moments where, he was surrounded and we thought, oh, God, and he did some trickery, and he like he'd sometimes, he's notoriously known to doing it in front of the opposition goal, but he had to do it for defensive purposes. And I thought he did all right, to be fair.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about Jesus, and I thought he had a pretty poor performance in midweek.
Yes.
And I watch him in a central position, and I think I like Trossard more there. And I think when we see Jesus now, in the way he plays and the way he kind of likes to drop in, and he kind of has his own game, he doesn't stick to structure much. I think that's better from wide than it is from central, to be honest, at this point in time. And whereas 2 years ago, when we weren't as structured and we needed someone to help build play, but now we're so structured. I think him providing an option out wide and is going to be better. And other than getting a silly booking for sort of stopping an early corner and all that kind of stuff, which I had no problem.
But he was booking everyone. Rice got booked for something stupid. I mean, it's just endless. He was just wanting to get his yellow card out, trigger happy, and just it was just horrible to watch. And he actually got boring at one point, because I thought, go on, who are you going to book next? Who are you going to book next? So I'll just book the whole blooming team, why don't you? Because that's what you really want to do. And I forgot to say, sorry, Jack. You said, how does this performance put us going forward? I think that puts us in a really strong position. If the players know, I mean, Arteta's probably drummed it into their heads that you can do this. You can 100% do this. You've got the ability. You're more than capable. But it's one thing being told, and then it's another thing actually, carrying it out for real. And they've done that. And they've done it pretty much for all the away games that they had, the Villa away, the Tottenham away, but for this one especially, to be one man down against such a terrific side, despite everything and all the corruption, City are a terrific side. There's no doubt about it. They've got some amazing players, and for us to be able to nullify them for pretty much all the game, it's going to definitely make them feel so much more confident now going forward. Luckily, we've got again in paper not such a difficult run, I think, for the next few games. And I think we've got to really, as you said, go back to that possession playing football and really stamp our authority now. And that's without Odegaard. And I think we can do it, Jack. I think we can do it. If we can do this and come away with a point, I think we can do anything this season. And I think the players are going to be so motivated, so fueled. And I think they're going to be angry as well. You're saying that the City players were angry, but I think that our players are going to be angry with the. I still will say it's injustice. I don't care if it's letter of the law. I think it's injustice. I think the common sense is not being exercised. At least Mackay and Sky said that. There's got to be common sense, and it wasn't exercised. The whistle goes literally. He's kicked the ball and the whistle. It's almost at the same time. And he says, in a game like this, where the stakes are so high, the referee's got to understand that players are running on emotion as well. Yes, if you're doing something really bad, you've got to get penalised for it. That's fine. But sometimes like this, you look at the bigger picture and that he's already on a yellow card. And you think, okay, I'll let him go that. And plus it is well over the minutes that the game's just a bit of common sense. And that's what Mackay was saying. And I think they're going to be incensed by the injustice. So I think that's going to fuel our players going forward. I think we're really hungry for the title. After watching today, they were literally willing to throw their bodies, in line they were playing for their lives, it felt. That's what I saw for 45 minutes. And I think that tells me a lot, Jack. That tells me that they are really hungry for this title. So I think it's going to put us in a really good place going forward.
Yeah, and if you can apply common sense for leg-breaking tackles, because your goal as a referee, first and foremost, is to protect the safety of the players. If you're claiming common sense for leg-breaking tackles, for not sending off players and keeping it level, then for kicking the ball away, I mean, what more needs to be said, really? I mean, that's where you've lost everyone in the game, right? Really, and I think a lot of clubs are looking at it and kind of laughing, Arsenal, because City winning stuff and winning games doesn't affect anyone other than the team that's competing with them. So, everyone else will. I'm sure watching that game is supporting Manchester City. I think that's the way it would work in football. They don't. They probably find it quite funny, but that it's going to happen to other clubs eventually, and this sort of stuff's going to come round. And when it does, fair enough. But you can't claim it on the one end when you're not protecting safety. That has to be the first thing. But you're clamping down on all these little kickaways and ruining games, and it just seems illogical to me. But Neil, overall, objectively, you have to. It's a pretty astounding point to get under the circumstances, despite the fact it was last minute and we conceded the last second, and 7 points away from home in 3 of maybe the 5 toughest away games of the season. It's terrific, and you can't judge when we were 2 points off City, but it's too early to judge anything yet. But we do have to transition, Neil, into, like you just said, we haven't yet under Arteta found a way to play that possession-based attacking football without Martin Odegaard in the team. He has been a mainstay in the team for 2 years. In my opinion, we've had a very low possession all season. I mean, we're like the fourth bottom for possession all season, and last season and the season before we were like top 2, top 3 in the league. So that is not the way Mikel Arteta plays, despite the fact people might claim so. It's definitely not. There's no proof in that. We scored 91 goals last season. We didn't do it by doing that, but we have to find a way with Odegaard, and I think there's only 2 options, in my opinion, to do that. You cannot keep playing Kai Havertz there. It will not work. He's not a high possession, high touch player. And plus he's our centre forward. So you're basically affecting 2 areas of the pitch. But I think there's only 2 options. One, do you believe you can move Saka inwards and provide, in order to do that, we've got to have a belief in a right winger to provide, something close to what he does, and I think that might be our problem. And the other option is to trust in Nwaneri, and that's where Wednesday is perhaps very, very big for a player like Nwaneri, because if he can perform on Wednesday to a higher level, he may well find himself in the team come Saturday, and that might be it, because I think he'll definitely start on Wednesday in the Carling Cup, Carabao Cup, and if he does and he performs well, I think he puts his name right into the hat for that. All the other possibilities, people said Sterling and Trossard, and for me, I would not do that. I think you need a player that mimics a lot of Odegaard's traits in terms of wanting the ball all the time and dictating play, and I only see 2 options there, and that's Saka or Nwaneri, who is Odegaard's understudy on paper, isn't he?
I've been saying Ethan from the start. I've been saying it. And when Odegaard got injured, I said, well, there you go. Saka and Emil Smith-Rowe came in had their chances by Unai Emery because of injuries. Odegaard is injured. Bring in Ethan. Bring him in. We haven't got Fabio and we haven't got ESR, so bring in Ethan. You're not. We haven't got that player to replace Saka on the right wing, Jack. We haven't. We might have with Nelson. He's on loan, scoring. That's the problem, by the way, isn't it? Yeah, he's scoring. I mean, well done to all of Iwobi, ESR, and Nelson actually scoring and beating Newcastle. Arsenal 2.0, lovely stuff. No, for me it's Ethan. I'm going to just say it because I think he's a hugely talented kid, and he's only going to find his feet if he gets minutes, Jack. So Caribou Cup 100% he's starting without a doubt, but I would actually start him on the weekend as well against Leicester. I really would. I mean, I know we've got options and Trossard, etc. But Havertz has to go back to the false line. We've got to have Saka on the right wing, and then Martinelli, Trossard maybe on the left. But Ethan's got to start in Odegaard's position for me. It's got to be. It's a done deal, and I'm not going to sway from that. I think he needs to play because I think we have got a gem, and the sooner we unleash him, the better. Because I think he could end up being very much like Timber will be, very much like I think Rico will be. I think they're all going to be pivotal, not just helping us trying to win the Premiership, but also try and do well in one of the cups. Because, Jack, I'm going to say it one more time, we have to win a trophy this season. And we need all these players firing. We need to win a trophy this season for the players' sake, not for trophy hunters, not for fans, but for the players' sake to say that, right, we've got a reward now for our hard work. So I think that's the reason for me.
I think with that in mind, Neil, he goes a little stronger midweek than we may all like, possibly. I know it's the Carabao Cup and it's probably the least of the four priorities.
I wouldn't mind.
But do you think he might do? I mean, for example, in goalkeeper, he doesn't have the option of playing Neto because he's cup tied.
Right.
I can't see him playing Setford, who's an 18-year-old. In the Carabao, I think James said, yeah, and I was like, maybe, but I expect Raya probably starts, which is, I'm sure fans will be in uproar that he's starting. But I also, when you look at it, I think the likes of Lewis Skelly and Wanyeri should probably see a start, but beyond that, I think you may see people like White and Rice, even.
Kiwior might play.
Kiwior, Calafiori.
Yeah.
Who hasn't played many minutes. I'm sure he'll play. Jorginho's.
Yeah, Jorginho will play.
Sterling Jesus's.
Yes. Yes, that's
Trossard's banned. Luckily, it's that game. And that one's, I mean, that's something. But then obviously it's Leicester at the weekend. And that is one, we're at home, we have to find a way to win, but we have to find a way to dominate and win. We haven't done that for a few games, Neil. So there's, there could be some teething problems because we've since certainly Tottenham away and the loss of Odegaard and other players alongside it, we've had this block of games where I think that's why the Atlanta game was tricky, because you play Tottenham in a certain way. It's hard to transition and then come back. I think Mikel Arteta probably takes things in blocks a little bit and sets up the team in a certain way for certain blocks of games maybe, or certain games, but I know he has a different way of playing for different games, but because of the personnel it was difficult to maybe change. But now, we have to, I think we have to adjust and try to get back to that 4-3-3 and that sole pivot player and 2 eights and try to find that way. And again, so it'll be interesting what we play midweek. The lineup will be very, very interesting.
I think midweek will be a mock for the weekend. I think it'll be a mock test. Yeah,
hopefully the likes of Timber, Saka, the two centre-backs get rest.
Yes.
Because they're not going to get rest. I would give Havertz as well. I mean, they just don't get rest.
Agreed.
So the likes of I don't want Rice to play, especially when you see things that, happen with Rodri and stuff like that. But Rice has had a bit of time, not a lot, but he had, the suspension, I guess, and 45 minutes against Brighton where he didn't play and things like that. So he may feature, and I'm sure fans will be frustrated.
You could have a midfield of Ethan, Rice and Jorginho, couldn't you?
Yeah, because it doesn't do Wanyeri any favours to put kids all around him if you're trying to see what he's going to be like in the first team setting. You have to
100%.
have a little bit of familiarity. So I think Lewis Selly, I think Ranieri, beyond that, I don't really see youngsters starting, at least. You know, you got Heaven and Setford, but I
can see Jesus starting. I can see Sterling as well. I can.
I don't really know who our other winger will be because Trossard's not available, and starting Martinelli again would be madness, I think. But
that would be stupid.
Or he might look at it and go, well, I need Martinelli to get on the score sheet. It's interesting. It would be interesting, but it's Bolton at home in midweek, and then it's Leicester. What are your predictions before we go for those two games? 2 home games.
Bolton, I'll go 3. We're going to have a bit of a makeshift defence. I think we might concede. I'll go 3-1 Bolton, Caribou Cup, and I'll say Ethan will score.
I love it. Love that.
All right, and then Leicester. I just got a feeling we're going to be angry, and we're going to want to prove a point about, I think unjustly losing that win against City. I think we're going to thump them, Jack. I think there's a thumping coming. I know you might be surprised. I'm going to go, well, maybe not such a thumping. I think 3-0. I think 3-1 midweek, 3-0 on Saturday. And it's going to be Saka on Saturday. It's Saturday, isn't it? Yeah, it's Saturday, yeah. Saka on Saturday.
Yes. Neither of us called the City result. We both said 1-0 Arsenal, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
You got to be positive. We were close. We were almost
close to a win.
Yeah, I'll go... midweek. Do we know a lot about Bolton? Where are they in? Are they in the Championship or? I ain't
got a blooming clue, mate. I ain't got a clue.
Bolton are League One.
Okay.
And they're currently 18th in League One.
Yeah, 3-1, Jack. Come on, say 6-0.
I'll go. Okay, I'll go 2-0 midweek, and I'll say Sterling. I'll say Sterling 2-0, and then I'll go 2-0 at the weekend as well. I'll go 2-0 on the weekend, and I'll go Havertz.
Okay, cool.
Havertz on the weekend, yeah. Neil, it's been a pleasure. What a game to talk about. So many instances. We may have missed something. We definitely could have. There was a lot. We probably have, but nothing big. But we could have. There was so many little things in there, and player and crowd reaction, Lewis Skelly getting booked on the bench, and
oh gosh, yes,
all that kind of stuff. I don't know what it was for, but I do like it. I like his attitude, Lewis Skelly. He gets booked on the bench, which obviously means he's giving it a bit, and then he goes right up to Haaland, the sideball, doesn't he? And Haaland's like, "Who are you?" And he went, "You're going to know about me real soon, mate."
Yeah, I love it.
I love it. Let's see if you know about him when it come the home leg, and let's see where you're at.
Oh, we're going to smash him at home. We're going to smash them at home.
I don't know when it is. I can't look ahead, but I remember. I think a lot of people will be looking at that one, but I love it. They all the quotes coming out. They absolutely hate us. It's in the last few years, we've got a lot of compliments from them. That's all gone out the window now. They absolutely hate us, and that's exactly where we want it to be. We want
just like Man United Arsenal rivalry.
That's right. We love it. We love that kind of stuff, and Mikel Arteta feeds off it. So, Neil, it's been a pleasure. At Purely Arsenal FP on Twitter. We're Purely Arsenal on YouTube. You can watch us there, listen to us there. We appreciate all your comments and subscriptions on YouTube or anywhere. Listen to us on your podcast apps as well. And we'll be back after this week's game. Keep the faith. Up the Arsenal. Long season ahead. Come on, boys.